Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my class. My name is Nena Alice Kalu with the brand name Nelly Millinery. Before we proceed, please turn on the notification button, okay, so that you will receive notification once I upload new videos. Okay, now let's proceed. Now I want to teach us how to make the Brim Fascinator, okay, using veil nets or bridal cage. Okay, now the materials we are going to need for this class is your already made base or crown. Okay, anyone. Then you need your wire, you need your nail paint, you need your gun. Either you use this, you use this, okay, or you use UHU gum, that's the UHU gum. Okay, and what else? Oh, let's continue as we proceed. You see, I'll be mentioning some of the materials to use. Now, the first thing you do is this. Before you cut your wire, I've already, if you see, I've cut the wire already. I attach it on I've joined it together. Okay, the use of paper tape. So let me set this aside, and I will explain how I was able to get the measurement. Is that taken? Now the first thing to do is this. You get your veil nets. Okay, if you are buying 1 yard, fine. Depends on how big or small. Look at the size. Look at this side that I use for my picture Fascinator. This one is small. Is that taken? So it depends on the size that you want, okay, or how big or small your client want it to be. Now, see how to do it first. Before you get the measurement for the wire, you get the measurement for your net, your veil net first. Take your tape rule and measure. Get the length of your cage. Okay, this is mine is 46 inches. 46 inches. Now you set it aside. 46 inches. You go to your wire. I'm using the hard wire, the strong one. You know, we have different types of wire. We have the soft wire, we have the hard one. So I'm using the hard wire for this class. Now take your wire, okay, you measure. What you're going to do is this. You know how to get the measurement. Take what I usually do is this. For example, I got 46 inches for this. Okay, so if I want to measure my wire, I'm not going to measure exactly 46 inches. I'm going to put an allowance or an extra, okay, that we use for the joining here. And what do how many inches do I usually measure out, or do I usually add? Like for me, I use either 3 inches or I use 4 inches. Is that taken? Either I use 3 inches or use 4 inches. Either you add 3 inches or you add 4 inches to the 46. You know, we got 46 for the net here. So to get the measurements for the wire, measure your 46 inches and add 3 inches or 4 inches. Is that taken? Add 3. Okay, so let's continue. So when you want to get this thing, so either you add 3 inches or you add 4 inches to the already measured 46 inches. Is that taken? Now, like I said earlier, I said is for the joining. Now, the joining, the 4 inches or the 3 inches that you added extra to the 46, you join it together to this. Okay, then you hold with you join together. Make sure it does not exceed 4 inches or 3 inches when you are joining. That is the join for the joining part. Start taking. Now use your paper tape and hold them. Sometimes I use super glue. You know what we call super glue to hold. Yes, it hold it firmly. Is that taken? Good. Now when you are done with that, you introduce what we call the nail paint. Let me introduce what we call the nail paint. For the painting of my wire, I don't use for all my nets, for all my what's it called, brim cage, I make use of paint. A wire, I make use of paint. I don't wrap with trimming. Is that okay? I don't wrap with trimming. I make use of paint. Now either I use my nail paint, the matching color of the net, please take note, or I use my permanent marker. Now I prefer the nail paint. To me, I prefer the nail paint because if you are using the original nail paint, it lasts longer, or let me say it gives a permanent stay on the wire. Now I'm going to paint the wire. Don't forget I said matching color of the veil net. If you are using black, this is black, so make sure that your nail paint is black. Paint the wire round, both the underneath or inside, then on the outside. Paint twice. Is that taken? Then sun dry. Then you might have joined together. Please join it together first, okay, so that you paint everything. Now once you are done with that, take it to the sun to sun dry. Now let's move to the next step. And what is the next step? The joining of the wire together. Now we've gotten our wire to be in circular form, so we also need the veil net to be in circle, okay, because when you're going to wear it on the wire, you see how that it is circle. Is that taken? That it is round or it is circle, okay, in a circular form. Now let me use that word. Now how do we join our nets? Now you must take note of the tip of the nets, the end part. Excuse me. You must take note of the tip. Now if you see that this one is not rightly cut, so don't forget, please don't cut too much, because you know we've already measured it. But ensure that you trim them out first before you measure from the beginning. Is that taken? Ensure you trim them out. I forgot that, so I'm just trimming, and I make sure I'm not going to cut excess, because it's going to affect my wire. Is that taken? So the same way you are trimming the side is the same way you are going to trim the other side. Is that taken? Now where's the other side? This is the other side. Okay, let me use the side. Now take note of the mouth, take note of the tip. Can you see the mouth? Okay, can you see it? Can you see the mouth? Can you see the way I trim it? You need it to, we need this side. This how it's going to be. That is this joining this side. That is, you must cut it at that it will look that it will be in this form. That is this joining format. You understand? Cut it this way. Okay, likewise the other side. Now what am I going to do next? What you are going to do next is this. After you have cut, then you get your gum. Clear my table. Now on that joining, place gum on it. On that joining, place gum on it. Place gum on it. Did you see what I'm doing? Did you see how let me bring it closer to the screen. See the way I place my gum. Okay. I put the gum on it. Now also go to the other side. See what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to lap it on each other. Is that taken? That's going to place it this one on on top of the other one. You do get me? So before I place, now I'm going to put my gum not on top. Now you know when you want to put something on top, something like this, let me use my hand for example. I want to put this on top of this one. Now I'm going to put my gum here. Okay, now when I want to put on this other side, I'm not going to put the gum here. I'm going to put the gum this side, so that by the time I want to place it on each other, it will stick together. Do you get me? So I'm putting my gum here and also putting my gum here. So that is as simple as that. So when you put on this side too, you put down from the beginning to the end. Okay, I like to dry for a few seconds. I like to dry for a few seconds. I like to dry for a few seconds. Then you now place it on each other. Is that taken? Arrange it one after the other. One after the other. Now when it dries, I usually want to I usually place it put the gum twice. Yes, when this one dries, I'll put another gum on top on it as well too. I like to dry. I like to dry very well. Okay, if you want to sun dry, fine. If you want to air dry, fine. Is that taken? Now you know what I mean by sun dry and air dry. Sun dry, you take it to the sun. Under the sun it dries. Air dry, you just place it close. Where no sunlight is, just place it where breeze or air will be reaching out to it. Okay, now when you are done, when it dries, one thing you will notice is the gum patches on the net or on the cage. Now what you do is to still take your nail paint or you use your permanent marker. Now bring it. If you are using nail paint, please make sure by the time you bring out the brush, you reduce the paint. Okay, bring it on top and you paint it. Why? We don't want anyone to notice that there is a joining there, number one. Number two, we don't want anyone to notice that notice the patches of the gum on the net. Is that taken? So that is how to join the veil net together, and also to how to get the wire, okay, and also to not how to paint the wire without the use of trimming. Is that taken? Now let's move on to the next stage. After you are done with the net, okay, what is the next step? Now the next step is to wear the net over the wire. That is to wear the wire, to wear the color with the brand name Nelly. Okay, now let's continue from where we stopped. Now before then, I have to introduce this course to us. Okay, I have a course that is affordable. Okay, the class is affordable. Okay, so if you are interested, how to make a spicy feather mounts, okay, with a double shade Sinamay. Is that taken? So how to make spiky feather mount. Okay, now that's for that. Let's quickly continue. Now, like I said earlier on, for the wire I made use of nail paint. This is my nail paint to paint the wire. Now, like I said earlier, is more preferable than using spray. Okay, it's more preferable. Like you can't get a black wire. It's difficult for us to get black wire in Nigeria. So what we usually do is to improvise. Is that taken? Now how do I improvise? I use any nail color. If for example I'm making red paint, red fascinator or red headwear, and that requires the use of wire, I improvise by using nail paint. Is that taken? And I prefer using nail paint than spray paint because it lasts longer. Is that taken? Or you use your permanent marker that you know cannot wear off easily to paint the wire or change the color of the wire. Now let's continue. Now the next step is this. For your nets, we are done with what's it called, attaching, that is joining it together with the aid of the glue. Okay, I use a B6000, or you can use Yoo-hoo gum or UHU. Some people call it UHU, but the right pronunciation is Yoo-hoo gum. Now the next thing is to do what is you have to paint. I don't like the gum to be visible on the cage or the net rather. So what I usually do is or the veil, sorry, it's not net. What I usually do is to take my nail paint and paint a little bit, let's not be too much. Paint that's the side we join together. Okay, that's how you continue to do. You do that till you get to the end. See what I'm doing? Is that taking? Take your nail paint and paint it so you have something like this. Now, when you are done, wear it on the wire. Please, you have to be very careful so that you don't tear off the veil net. Remember how we got the measurements of the wire and as well as the veil. The measurement of the veil will determine the measurement of the wire. If you don't want your fascinator to be much, that is or see how big it is, of course you have to reduce the veil. Instead of using 1.5 like I use, my veil is 1.5, you reduce it to either 1 inch, to 1 yard. Use 1 yard please. Now see what I did now. Join the nets, the veil nets, join the veil net into 2 equal parts. You see what I did? Join it into 2 equal parts. Ensure, let me use this part so that you see very well what I'm trying to do. Ensure that is well arranged. Is well arranged. See, you see they are lapping on each other. Please take note of this. Not when you arrange your nets. Take a look at what I'm doing. It will look like this. That is not well arranged. So ensure that they are well arranged. 2 equal parts and well arranged. Somebody might have asked, what about if I fold them together and they are not giving me, they are not well arranged? What will I do? Now, you know what you'll do? If they are not well arranged, now increase 1, let 1 be longer than 1, but ensure that they are what? Well arranged. That is the main thing. Okay, is that taken? That is what we really want, to make sure that they are well arranged. That is what we are after. Now, when you are done with the arrangements, because the reason why I said they should be well arranged, by the time you are done with sewing and you stretch or you want to form gathers with it, to make sure that the body, the side, this side is that is let me come again, sorry. When you're done with sewing, okay, and you stretch the veil nets. Now see what you're going to get. If they are not well arranged, it's going to it's not going to be beautiful. Let me just use that language. But when they are well arranged, it will look so fine, so beautiful, and so professional. Is that taken? Is that taken? Now, the next step is this. Get your matching color thread and needle, and you sew. How am I going to sew? I will show you now. We are going to sew in a zigzag format. Zigzag format. That is up, down, up, down. You know how zigzag is? Like this. Did you see my hand? It's going in the form of V. In the form of V. In the form of V. That is zigzag. Is that taken? Watch my hand. This is where the main work comes in. Let me put my hand inside very well, please. I'm sewing on the second line so that it will not tear off, please. So that is where I'm starting from, second line. This is the second line. This is the second line. Can you see what I'm doing? Let me put my hands this way. I think this is better. Now watch what I'm doing. I believe you are seeing what I'm doing. Please, I'm using a tiny needle so that you know, the net is very, very soft, so that it will not tear off. Watch my thread, the direction is going to. Please, watch my thread. This particular design requires patience. Is that taken? It requires patience. You don't just rush. If not, you end up tearing the veil net. So it requires patience. You just have to be very, very patient. Exercise patience. If not, you end up tearing the net. Is that taken? So now see what I did now. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That is how you continue. This is up, the next place is down. So that's how you sew round back to the beginning. Before you do what? You draw the rope. You draw the rope until the you continue to draw the rope until it comes together in a gathered form. Is that taken? So that's all about making a brim veil cage. Brim veil cage. Is that taken? So it's a very simple technique, but like I said earlier, it requires patience, because if not, you end up, you know, this the veil net itself is very soft. So if you're not careful enough, you end up tearing the veil itself. Is that taken? Now don't forget again how I got this black hard wire. Is that taken? Now we'll be right back. We're almost done with the nets. Okay, Don't forget we are using the zigzag method. Now somebody might have asked, why are we not why is it that we cannot also straight, that is on the straight line instead of zigzag, that is in a V format. Now the reason why is this: after you are done with sewing, excuse me, after you're done with sewing, I want to show you something. I'm coming. I want to use I'm coming, excuse me. Okay, now after you're done with sewing, by the time you pull the thread. See what I'm doing? Careful please when you're pulling the thread. By the time I'm pulling the or you pull the thread, if you use the straight method, now you are not going to get you are going to have enough ruffle. Is that taken? Okay, you know what I mean by ruffle now. But if you are to use the zigzag method, of course you are going to have ruffle, but it will not be that much. Is that taken? So use this method to get a smooth side. Is that taken? So that this side, or sorry, the brim itself will be, you know, will be without gathers, or with little gathers. Now if you look at this, we are still having some. I'm going to show us what I mean by having gathers. Please, so if you are pulling, you ought to be very, very careful. When I mean by careful, you don't apply force. Gently you pull. Now you don't pull too much. You know the reason why. When you pull too much, it's going to it's going to affect the wire, whereby instead of having a flat brim, you have what we call a satellite brim. Is that taken? So don't pull too much, because we want it to be flat, okay, without having the wire curve. I hope it's well understood. Now what you do is to, by the time you get to this stage, what you do now is to knot the mouth very well so that it will not loose. Hope that is taken. Okay, knot the thread, the mouth of the thread or the thread itself, to avoid it losing. Good. Now remember, I'm going to put let me use this base as an example. Although I'm using this, it's not well dried, okay, so I'm using this, but let me use this as a stance. Now if I just watch what I'm going to do now. If I should put my base on the brim, if I put my base on the brim, you are still having a little bit of gathers at the side. So how am I going to pull the net or pull the veil that I won't have all these gathers itself won't show? Now the same method you use for the first line is the same method you're going to use for this, for pulling the remaining gathers. How? Now take the same your needle and thread. Let's remember, please be careful when you are pulling. Don't pull too much. Okay, move to second line or third line and start sewing again. The same zigzag method. So we are going to sew round again, but this time around it's not going to be much, just only this side. Did you see where I'm pointing at? So we are going to sew round again, zigzag method, don't forget. Zigzag technique or zigzag method of sewing, whichever name you want to call it. So that is how you're going to do it. You sew round. When you are done with sewing, you pull as well too, until you're having a smooth surface like this one there, like this towards the wire. Okay, so that's how we do it. Is that taken? Good. So what else? After you're done with the sewing, the next thing to do is to attach the base. I hope you have to get your base. Sorry, is to attach the top. Okay, you have to get it ready. Is that taken? Oh, I wanted to mention something I forgot. Okay, have the crown ready or have the cap ready before you attach it to the brim. Is that taken? Now, and how are we going to sew it, or how are we going to attach it? That will be for the next class. Is that taken? So if I'm to use this, see what I'll do. I'll just go to the back and sew. Now I have already, this one is let me use this. I guess this will be better. This will be better. Of course, will be better. Now, before you attach the top or the crown to the brim, see what you should do. Ensure that this top has what's it called? It has an allowance. I do call this allowance, or an extra. You know, after you finish blocking your base, you will always have an extra, the one that goes in. Okay, I'm just trying to explain this because of beginners that are watching the video. Now you have something like this, so always leave a remnant. The reason why is this: for something like it, apart from attaching wire and you sew for using the sewing technique, if you want to create a design like this, you will need it for sewing. You'll have something like this. Okay, how am I going to sew? You just get your needle and thread. Now, for some of us, we may decide to sew and cut out this excess or this part that here, or you decide to leave it like that. Sometimes I sew and leave it that way. Sometimes after I closely, firmly attach this brim to the base, I do cut it off. But you just have to be very, very and extremely careful. Sometimes after sewing and cutting it off, if you are not careful enough, this is net and this is not a Sinamay, or will I call it the window Sinamay, whereby after you finish cutting, it will not loose. Do you get me? So I will advise you don't cut it off if you are not conversant with the use of this, with the use of brim cage or brim nets, or sorry, with the use of veil net or veil cage to make brim fascinators. Please, if you don't really know the technique, so just only sew and leave it, sew and leave it, then you cover this place before you attach your Alice band. And that is the method I'm going to use because of beginners. Okay, like following me, I'm going to after I'm done with sewing, I'll show us how to sew. After I'm done with sewing, of course, I cover first and I attach my Alice band. I cover before, so I attached my Alice band on the what I'm going to use, on the extra Sinamay I'm going to use to cover. That's another method. Is that taken? So but I'm going to show, no, without wasting much of our time. This is actually a practical class, so I'll show us how to do it. Is that taken? Now this, let's continue this thing. Continue what we are doing. You continue sewing. Remember I said you continue sewing. After you are done sewing, you pull as well too. Our aim is this, to ensure that there are no, this thing, if you check towards the wire side, the veil net is straightened. Is that taken? Is straightened. There are no ruffles at the side. But if you're coming towards the beginning, you can see some ruffles here. Of course, at the time you put your base on it, if you are using small base like this, you see, you can see that the gathers or the ruffles are visible. So it as a professional or as a professional headwear maker or a hat maker, it will not look good for you to have this after when you are done with this design. So I'll urge you, like I do tell my students, after you are done and you have something like this, what you have to do again is to resew using the same zigzag technique. Is that taken? When you are done sewing, you pull. By the time you pull, of course, the gathers itself will move towards closer to the tip, or sorry, to the mouth part. So that way, that one is even quite easy. You don't know why? Because the base itself is going to cover it. Is that taken? So that's how to form or get